The headlights sliced through the thick curtain of falling snow like some desperate lifeline. And there she was, right there on the shoulder of Route 9. A woman in a wedding dress, of all things, heels swinging from her fingers, hair a tangled mess, the white silk dragging in the dirt and slush. Now, I know what you're thinking. Nobody with any sense stops for a stranger on a snowy road at midnight. Normally, I wouldn't either. I've got enough of my own messes. But something about her just stopped me. She looked like someone who was trying to outrun her own shadow. And I know that feeling too well. You know what I mean? She looked up, and there was this fire and fear behind her eyes, like she was daring the world to take one more shot at her. You need help? I asked, rolling down my window, bracing for the usual rejection or weirdness. Just taking a walk, she shot back, voice crisp, elegant, rich girl accent, the kind you only get at certain zip codes and certain prep schools. Her dress looked like it cost more than my car, but she wore it like armor that had been torn apart. It does look kind of dramatic, huh? She said with a laugh that sounded more like a dare than a joke that I told her straight up. No questions, no judgment, just a warm car if she wanted it. She hesitated, glancing back like someone might come chasing after her, then quietly admitted, I don't actually have a destination. Well, if there's anything I've learned since losing Sarah, it's that sometimes the best journeys don't start with a plan. I opened the door and she slid in, a queen with no kingdom. She called herself Tori. Eventually that we drove in silence for a while. Just the sound of the heater fighting the cold and the windshield wipers struggling to keep up. I handed her Charlie's old cartoon blanket, probably the ugliest thing in the car, but she wrapped herself in it like it was spun gold. I told her she looked like someone having the worst night of her life, and she laughed, finally, a real laugh, and said, don't we all, sometimes? We got to my place, this big colonial house that's been too empty since Sarah passed. I offered her the guest room. She hesitated, called out the obvious. You don't know me. But I told her the truth. She's not the only one who's ever felt lost. Inside, she was polite, almost fragile, moving through the living room looking at family photos, the kind you don't realize mean everything until someone's missing from them. My wife picked most of this out, I said. My late wife. She just nodded and said she was sorry. There was this weight to her, but she hid it well. We talked about loss, about expectations, about what it feels like when your whole world falls apart and you're supposed to keep smiling. She told me she'd run out on her wedding, supposed to marry some rich guy, Theo, whose family probably owns half the town. But standing there in front of all those people, she realized she was about to disappear, just become another prop in somebody else's story. So she ran, right out of her own reception, through the snow, until she ran out of road and, apparently, into my life. I told her, that's not the worst place to start over. And for a minute, it felt like we both believed it. We stayed up way too late talking, the way people do when they're on the edge of something new or maybe just desperate not to go back to old pain. She finally crashed in the guest room, and when I woke up, the house felt different. Warmer, somehow. I walked into the kitchen to find her making pancakes with Charlie, my daughter, 8 years old and more honest than most adults. Dad, is she your girlfriend? Charlie asked, right out loud. Tori smiled, handled it with a grace I could never fake, told her she was just a friend who needed help. Charlie brightened up around Tori in a way I hadn't seen since Sarah died. They talked, laughed, planned a garden for spring. Tori knew all about flowers. The house that had felt like a museum of grief suddenly sounded like a home again. But nothing good comes without a test, right? 3 days in, Theo showed up, black SUVs and all, looking like he'd stepped off the cover of Forbes. I believe you have something that belongs to me, he said, all cool confidence. I told him people don't belong to anyone. He kept pushing, talking about responsibility, family reputation, money, everything but Tori herself. Tori stood her ground, told him she wasn't going back, that she wanted a life where she mattered for who she was, not for her last name or her engagement ring. Theo, of course, tried to twist the knife, told her her trust fund, her security, her whole world was gone if she left. She just looked at him, voice trembling but sure, and said, then it's a good thing I'm not with you for your money. When he finally left, the quiet in the house felt almost sacred. Later, I found her in the kitchen, staring at the snow outside. She was scared. Who wouldn't be? Starting over at 32 with no money, no job, no plan. I told her about Sarah, about how she made me promise to help someone find their way back if I ever could. That's what love is, Sarah had said. Helping people become who they're meant to be. Tori cried. Really cried. Like nobody had told her that before that we settled into a new routine. Tori found work at a local nonprofit, using her marketing skills to help out. Charlie dragged her into our lives with that kid energy, stories about her mom, questions about the future. One day, Charlie asked if I was going to marry Tori. I told her the truth. I hadn't asked yet. Later, on the porch, I told Tori I loved her. Not because she was perfect, not because she replaced anyone, but because she was brave enough to start over. She said she loved me too, but was scared of another mistake. I promised her we'd take it slow, build something real. Spring came early that year. The garden Tori and Charlie planted started to bloom. Our lives grew together, not in some fairy tale way, but in the messy, beautiful way that real families do. One morning, Charlie came running in with a drawing. Our family, all three of us, standing in front of our blooming garden. At the bottom, in her crooked handwriting, "My family is growing." Tori looked at me, tears in her eyes, and said, "I want to grow with you, if you'll have me." "Welcome home," I whispered, and for the first time since Sarah passed, I meant it for the future, not just the past. Now, I'm not going to sit here and pretend life tied itself up in a neat bow after that. We had to work for it, had to choose it every single day. But sometimes the bravest thing you can do is stop running and start planting. So here's my question for you. What's your garden? What's that thing you'd risk everything to build, even if you have to start over from scratch? Let me know down below. Let's talk about second chances, about what it means to really belong. Because maybe, just maybe, the stories that matter most are the ones we choose for ourselves. You ever think life finally calms down, then, out of nowhere, it throws you another curveball? That's how it was a year after Tori moved in. The house was fuller, laughter in the kitchen, shoes by the door, garden gloves everywhere. We had a rhythm, the kind that takes months to build and only seconds to lose. Spring came around again, in our backyard. Once Sarah's memory, now something new, was wild with colors, flowers everywhere, Charlie's little hands covered in mud, Tori's laughter floating on the breeze. You'd look at us and swear we'd always belonged together. But, yeah, that's when things started shifting under our feet. It began small, the way real trouble always does. Just a letter in the mail, thick envelope, fancy seal. Tori opened it at the kitchen table, hand shaking, eyes darting over the words. "It's from my parents' lawyer," she said, voice barely above a whisper. I tried to brush it off. We've dealt with worse, haven't we? But deep down, I saw that shadow return to her face, the one she wore that night I found her on Route 9. The letter said her parents were contesting her inheritance, claiming she was mentally unwell, unduly influenced, and unfit to manage family assets. A new twist, but the same old story, power and control, dressed up in legalese. What really stung was her mother's signature at the bottom. No call, no warning, just a cold, calculated attack. Charlie asked if we could have pancakes for dinner to cheer Mom up, her words, not mine. And that was the first time she'd called Tori Mom, casual as breathing, like the universe giving its blessing. That night, Tori sat at the window seat, hugging her knees. I thought leaving them behind meant I was finally free. I should have known they'd never let go, she said. I sat beside her, put my arm around her shoulders, feeling the old ache of helplessness. Freedom's never given, Tori. You gotta take it, again and again, every time they try to take it back. A week later, things escalated. A private investigator showed up at Charlie's school, asking questions. The principal called us, worried, saying some gentleman in a suit was poking around. When I got there, Charlie was clutching her backpack tight, eyes big and scared, but not crying. He asked if you and Tori were my real parents, she said, voice trembling. I told him my family is right here. I told him we choose each other. And I swear, I wanted to hug that kid so tight the world would never touch her again. Tori, though, was furious. "They're trying to make me look unfit," she said. She called her parents, voice shaking but strong. "If you want to fight, fight me. Leave my family out of it." Her father, always the diplomat, offered a deal: give up her claim, sign a non-disclosure, walk away, and they'd leave us alone. Tori laughed, a sharp, broken sound. "All my life, I tried to be enough for you. But you never wanted a daughter, just a puppet." That weekend, I sat up late with Tori on the porch, watching the moonlight turn the garden silver. "If you want to fight this, we'll fight it," I told her. "But if you want to let go, just be free of them. No one here will love you any less." She looked at me, and there was something new in her eyes: resolve. "No, I'm not running. Not again." Court got ugly fast. Her parents' lawyers dug up everything: her running out on the wedding, her unstable period. Even that night I found her in the snow. On the stand, Tori's mother said, "My daughter doesn't know what she's doing. She's being manipulated." The gallery was full of reporters, hungry for gossip. That's when Charlie walked in, all dressed up, hair brushed, holding a piece of paper. She asked the judge if she could read her letter. I'll never forget that moment. How quiet the courtroom got as Charlie's small voice echoed, "Families aren't just blood. Sometimes you find your family when you need them most." Tori didn't make me love her. She just showed up and didn't leave when things were hard. She listens to stories about my mom, and she plants gardens with us, and she makes pancakes on Sundays. That's what real family does. "I don't care how tough you are, that'll break you. Just a little." The judge ruled in Tori's favor: no undue influence, no incompetence, just a woman finally standing on her own. Her parents left without another word, as cold as the day I met her. Back home, Tori stood in the kitchen, sunlight spilling in. She was trembling, a mix of relief and heartbreak. "I thought beating them would feel better than this," she said, "but all I feel is empty." I pulled her close. "That's grief talking. Give it time. You earned this life." Charlie hung her latest drawing on the fridge. All three of us, big grins, a giant garden behind us, and the words, "We choose each other." Every day. That night, Tori took my hand, led me into the garden. The air was cool, the soil rich, full of new life. She knelt down, pressed her hands to the earth, closed her eyes. "I'm not running anymore," she whispered. "I'm home." So yeah, that's how we got here. Life didn't get easier, but it got real. Messy, noisy, heartbreak, and hope all mixed together. Sometimes your second chance shows up in a ruined wedding dress on a snowy road. Sometimes it's a kid who believes love is something you do, not something you inherit. And sometimes it's the courage to say, "Enough, this is my life now." Let me ask you, when the world pushes back, when old wounds try to pull you under, do you stand your ground? Do you run? Have you ever had to choose your own happiness over someone else's expectations? Drop your thoughts below. Share your story, because sometimes what saves us isn't just love, but the guts to fight for it. And if you're still searching for your garden, for your home, for that chosen family, don't give up. Sometimes the right people find you just when you need them most.